it's important to be obviously mindful about what goes in your body, but also what goes on your body, because your skin is the largest organ, and your skin really absorbs everything.
Welcome to Talking About Kids. I am your host, R. Bradley Snyder, researcher, activist, and author of The 5 Simple Truths of Raising Kids. The research is conclusive. How and with what our kids' clothes are manufactured affects the environment and our kids' health and well-being. As you are about to hear, my guest for this episode, Samantha Gentry, is very passionate about this topic, so much so that she started her own store in the U.S. just to ensure that her own child would have access to safe clothing. This podcast was sponsored in part by the Arizona Department of Health Services Must Stop Bullying campaign through its Title V Maternal and Child Health Program. For more information, go to muststopbullying.org. And now, the interview.
Number one, I'm a mom myself, and I've been very mindful as to what goes into my, child's clothing. And I have realized that it is a challenge because the options offered are limited, and there are some organic options, as far organic cotton. But the quality, or rather the feel of it and the awareness of it, is not ideal. I tried those products. They are kind of rough. They're not really soft, but they're healthier. So it's important to be obviously mindful about what goes in your body, but also what goes on your body, because your skin is the largest organ, and your skin really absorbs everything. Some of the items that your skin absorbs transfer it into your bloodstream. Some don't. The majority of them, they do transfer to some extent into your bloodstream, which is really, in your body, that it can really create a huge disruption in your hormonal activity, in your signaling, and between your brain and your other organs. It really can create quite a mess. And this mess has been scientifically proven by virtue of clothing that has been produced with chemicals, and the reaction that people actually get. Now, I know we're talking about children, but even our audience can start the American Airlines and other airlines that produce some uniform that cause rashes, have breathing problems, and it was pretty a big deal. Some people actually died because they got really sick. But
Wow.
when you're talking about children, you must really have all stops, because children's immune system is developing as they're growing. They don't have the strength of a developed immune system as an adult has. And most importantly, the children develops itself. So you're thinking about it, okay, my child will develop in a clean, healthy, minimal chemical environment, or a toxic environment. Okay, well, let's think about it. Which will be produce the better outcome? A healthy, happy child that can thrive, can develop, can be strong. So that's one reason, being a mom. The second reason, again, I am vegetarian myself. Now I'm vegan, so I'm very mindful as to how much exposure should should my
Yeah.
family, or should I have. And I really became more aware of the problems that are on the market, particularly kids clothing, as I've been working to bring product into my store. So I've been very focusing on European items, because, and please stop me if you have a question, or if I talk too much, because I'm
Oh, I
like,
will. I will. No, keep
okay,
going.
okay. So, European clothes do not have the level of chemical that you can find in the United States, because there are a few reasons. Number one reasons, the European Union that not all the countries are in the European Union in Europe, but majority of them are, the more developed countries like France, Italy, Germany, and so on. And Europe, the European Union actually mandates that certain chemicals cannot be used. They are not allowed. There are over 1,000 chemicals that they are allowed in the United States, but they are not allowed
Okay.
in Europe. And we're talking about formaldehyde. We're talking about all kind of stuff that you can't even pronounce. So
Right.
it's so that the European businesses are not just being nice that they're going to produce organic cotton, but they have to. They are mandated. In addition, there is a standard called GOATS certified. In United States we have organic, certified, and you look at the label when you buy a pear or an apple. Okay, in Europe you have the Global Organic Textile Standard, GOATS, GOTS, and this is a standard that's been followed in the textile industry, clothing industry, by all businesses. And because there is a mindful intent on ensuring that there's less chemicals in the textile industry, in the clothing that they're producing, the business actually, they are self-regulating, where they are becoming mindful of producing organic. You know, I forgot. I'm originally from Europe. I have an Austrian background, but I came here for a long time, long time ago. I've been here for a long time. And I've forgotten. I shouldn't even know if I remember how cotton smells. It is
Oh,
something that it's just I noticed because obviously I'll be buying clothes for my daughter. My daughter's 12 years old right now. Being
right.
clothes for her, we shop, we're girls, and we are familiar to the extent that it becomes a part of life that when we buy something, it's gonna smell. We don't have a
Hmm.
question why it smells. We know it's gonna smell. We are accepting. We're familiar with.
Right.
It's part of life. And when I got these products here, I was smelling them, and I can just not stop smelling because it smells fresh. It smells organic. It smells as a textile that's from the fields. It smells as like plant in a good, not broccoli plant, but in a good way. It's hard to explain it. You have to really have experiencing it. So basically,
So,
going back,
Samina, I
yeah,
am I am going to stop you
yeah,
right there for a
yeah,
second
yeah,
because we've covered a lot already,
yeah,
and I want to go back. You mentioned these thousands of chemicals that are
yes,
allowed in clothing, children's clothing in the U.S. You mentioned formaldehyde is obviously one. I think that all of us recognize as a nasty chemical.
yeah,
What are when you're looking and you're reading labels now
yeah.
in the US,
That's a good point.
what other chemicals are you weary of? Are you looking for that are
Yeah.
particularly harmful?
Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Well, this is the question of the year. And do you know why?
Why?
Because there are no labels. So
Hmm.
what happened is, and this has to be, I had a show the other day with someone, and we're talking about the fact that when you go and buy something from the grocery store, you can read the ingredients, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, when you buy something, apparel, there are no labels. I mean, there are labels, of course, but not the ones that we want. There are labels that they say, synthetic 100%. Or they say
Okay.
cotton 50%, synthetic 50%, or whatever.
Right.
Polyester 20% cotton, 50% synthetic, you know, 30%. But no one will list there phthalates,
Hmm.
antimony, lead. Let me tell you some more. I can't even pronounce them. Perfluorinated chemical, nonylphenol ethoxylates, organotin compounds. Okay, none of them will be present on those labels. And I believe that there is, I'm not going to go a little bit for a second or a minute. I'm
Yeah.
going to check a little bit about each and what kind of problems they can, create. And I'm going to mention a study that I'm going to bring attention to your audience. But this is what is needed. I believe that there is a movement currently towards the plant, right? With eating plants, right? And in that moment is going to bring with like a big train is going to take with it other aspects that we are encountering in our everyday life, including the label content on the apparel, particularly for children. That is so important to be mindful because they are developing, and these are the future of our society. So it is so important
And
that
so,
we're mindful of that.
but I want to clarify something right there because I think this is really fascinating. I think this is important.
Yes.
So even though, I'm in a shirt right now, I know a lot about how it's made, but the label says 100% cotton on it.
Yeah.
What it doesn't have is, so even though it says 100% cotton, it's not telling me what, Samina. It's not telling
Yeah, it's
me,
not telling
are
you
those
that
other
it's not.
things involved in the
So yeah,
production or the
so
dyeing
yeah, no, no,
process or
that's
what?
a good point. That's a good point. That's a good point. I'm going to explain. Is that there's a difference between the label saying cotton and saying synthetic, and the reason
Okay.
is that if the label says 100% cotton, it's
Right.
much better than synthetic, and the reason is these chemicals are not likely to be found in cotton products.
Okay.
These
Okay.
chemicals are likely to be found in products that have synthetic, they have polyester, and maybe some cotton. I have an article here that I'm going to bring your attention to, and also for your audience, they as a little gift for them, I put together an article on my site, and they can find it by going to atlanticchildren.com slash blog slash stories, or just go to atlanticchildren.com, go to the bottom on blogs, and you're going to find this
Okay.
article that also contains another article on it. And experts, it's called experts warns of high level of chemicals enclosed by some fast fashion retailers. And we're talking about, this is a professor from the
Mm,
University of Toronto holding this beautiful purse, right? This is a cute little red purse, right? So
right.
beautiful, and it's shiny and it's soft and everyone wants it. They found level of lead and other chemicals you cannot pronounce, and extremely, not above the FDA level, extremely high. And what
Mm,
do? They cause health effects to the brain, to the heart, to the kidney, and to the reproductive system. This is a pearl that's likely for a little girl. And the
right.
level of lead that they found is extremely high, and not just lead. So now, so this is not the cotton, right? So that's one of the differentiate. Now, I'm not saying that cotton is 100% healthy. You have to look at the origin. That is why I want to emphasize the origins, because of the European Union
Okay.
standards and regulations that are more stricter than anywhere on the planet. Anywhere on the planet. So if you want
Right.
to buy something, try to buy it from Europe if you can. If you buy it from anywhere else, at least try to have it cotton. If you can have 100% organic cotton, obviously is the best, right? Because that means not treated, it's really pure organic cotton. And in Europe, by the way, parenthesis, because they
Right.
have this demand for organic, but particularly this mandate for healthy clothing, they become so proficient on manufacturing those products that are
Right.
unbelievably soft. Anyway, I can go into another time. So
Okay. So
finally,
I'm going to pause you
yeah,
again right there because
yeah,
I want to clarify something. So you had mentioned earlier that in the EU there's a standard GOAT,
yes,
GOAT,
yeah.
and
Well, it's very
in
much observed in Europe. Yes,
right. So when I go to shops here, and I do go to a lot of health food and organic stores, if something says organic in the US, is there a standard for organic in the US?
so the GOTS stands for Global
Yeah.
Organic Textile Standard. So that
Okay.
GOTS is not just European, but in Europe is more much observed
Got it.
because the European Union does not allow thousands of chemicals that are allowed in the United States.
Right.
So,
Right.
because of that stringent regulation, goats is most likely to be found in Europe. So, you and for example, you have not heard of goats before, right? Well,
Right.
neither me before I read this article. So, it exists, but just we don't know it in the United States. We're just not aware of it because the United States market is full of products that have all kinds of
Mm,
bad stuff in them because they're not regulated, right? And there's no
right.
restriction as to where they're coming from, right? Whether it's China or India or Pakistan, or whatever country, that's not Europe. There's no regulation of what's imported in the country. There's no regulation what is being produced in the country. So therefore, the goods level of certification is doesn't really matter. It's almost non-existent in the United States. The bottom line is that you want to be aware of the fact that when you buy something, you want to take a look at the label, and you want to try to find something that is 100%. There are labels that says
Hmm.
100% organic. Now that's number one. That's ideal. Majority of them
Okay.
not say organic. They will say cotton, right? That means it's been processed. But because the majority of these chemicals, phthalates, antimony, lead, they are found not in cotton, but primarily in synthetic polyester and other materials. This is what you want to be able to at least help to the best you can by buying
Right.
cotton versus polyester. Where you're going to find those products, and those products cause, I mean, they're hormone disruptors, produced in they're affecting
Mm.
the liver, the kidney, and and if you think about it, we said, and I so much appreciate dedicating time to this. We're talking about children here. We're not
Right.
talking about the reproductive system or hormonal imbalance of a grown woman or a man or the liver, kidney, although it's dangerous for everyone. But we're talking about the child that's just starting
Mm.
his life and is developing. How he or she develops is going to be dictating all of their life. You can't go
Right.
back and start again. So it's so important to bring attention to growth, to bring attention to the
Right.
fact that we should have more regulation. Now, I'm really in the middle here, but I'm not like pro government. I really feel that certain areas of our lives, and not daily life personally, but certain areas as to what is on the market should be regulated, right? Insofar as what we're allowing into our body.
Yeah.
We just have to be mindful because we are an independent country. Obviously, we are United
Well,
States, and I'm very much thankful. This is the best country
right.
in the world. So, but maybe not.
But let's
Maybe it's
pause
not
there
from
for
the
a
government.
second there,
It doesn't have to
because
come from the
no, no,
government.
no.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, one of the things that interested me when you came to my attention
Yeah.
was I saw a parallel between what you were doing in something that I saw happening with food additives
Yes.
about a decade ago.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
the United States definitely lagged far behind the EU in what it allowed in children's food,
Yes.
in the dyes, and even in the containers that were serving the food, right? So we lagged behind in that, and so when I saw your company and your mission, I was interested because I saw a parallel. Am I correct that
You
there's this
are so
parallel?
correct. You are so correct,
Right.
which is why I am, I had on a show actually yesterday, and we're talking about this. There was a different topic, but we kind of tangential to this. I am so happy that you saw the parallel because I see it and I can see the movement and I can see that we will going to get there. We will go
Yeah.
together, and I think that people are becoming more aware of the significance of what is in our clothing. And it kind of, food, we obviously common sense enters in our bodies, right? So that's right.
Mhm.
But this kind of gets a pass because people think, well, I'm not eating that shirt, but you
Right.
actually are, because it goes on your skin and those materials, those chemicals. And please read my article. I have an article on my site with that link to
Yeah.
another article to a study, from University of Toronto, so you can see that this is true, this is real, this is not something that's it doesn't exist. We have the skin that is going to
Yeah.
absorb, and until more people are aware. First is about education, right? And are more educated, the more people will become more awake, and they will say no, because that is where it starts. And that's what I was trying to say there a minute ago. Maybe it's not the government, maybe it's the free market, right? When Because people are going to be educated, and if you are educated, the first
Right.
result is that you may make better choices. You now know right from wrong, yes from no, right? And you're going to be able to make, and when you make those choices, what happens in our beautiful country, the businesses will listen and say, oh, I'm not selling this because my customers say no to
Right.
chemicals. I'm going to now try to find those importers and those companies in Europe so I can bring their things in the United States. So this is the most beautiful, healthier way for us to get to that outcome. And I think it's going to happen because you are correct. You made such a wonderful parallel. And I appreciate actually you're the first one that will notice that because it is such a clear, such a clear direction that we're going in that way. And that is
Right.
that makes me very happy. And I appreciate the opportunity for us to actually bring that to the surface. And maybe we can meet again in 10 years and we're gonna go back to
And to
this.
see where we are.
And
Well, and this leads me to this other piece that, normally on talking about kids, I'm working really hard to make the lives of parents and teachers easier.
yes,
Now, I believe because I looked into your research, I looked into other aspects of this before having you on, and I do believe that our clothing is impacting maybe not all children, but some children, particularly around their behaviors, that
absolutely,
we're overloading their response because of the clothes that they're in.
absolutely.
But I know that I've got some of my listeners that are thinking, "Oh, Brad, now I have to worry about their clothes too. What am I going?" And I bet that the good clothes are so much more expensive. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yes.
How much harder is it to find quality clothes, and how much more expensive is it going to be?
If you really want something, you'll get it. So
Mm,
many of your audience, they will find ways to get it. Now, for people that are in between, they don't know how. Um, uh, there are limited resources at this time to procure products that are from Europe in the United States. In my and I don't want to be self-promoting here, but I did create this store because of that.
right,
I wanted to bring European beautiful healthy products to the United States. From my knowledge, we are the only one. We are the first business in the country that's focusing on European only. There are businesses that carry European products, but they also carry
right,
products from Pakistan and from China, from Iran. We are not. We are very strict in our requirements. What product, the source is very important. That's the most important requirement to sell products on our site. And we have their inventory,
right,
so we don't, then, so it's a little different business model. We kind of own everything. Um, so there are limitations. If you find another store that carries European products, what I'm encouraging you to do is to look at the brand to find that majority of them will have a website, if not all of them, of course. Look at the brand, look at their philosophy, look at what there is in the products. If they are from Europe, likely they will have less chemicals, even if they're not 100%
right,
organic. So I would say you need to be educated. The same as you are when you go to Whole Foods and you find a bag of chips. You look at the label. If you don't care about that, you'll not care about clothing, right? But if you care about your health, if you care about your child health, and then you look at that ingredient label, then you do the same with clothing. So it's just I would say a shift. It's not so much of the source. Now, of course, source have to improve
mm,
that aspect,
mhm,
but it's also about the mind, the shift in how you think about your skin, the shift in how you think about where do you procure material. Doesn't matter. Wrinkle free. If you have something that's wrinkle free, that's probably a alert because
right,
it shouldn't be wrinkle free. So if it's wrinkle free, probably there's some chemical they're gonna make it wrinkle free, right? So you have to be mindful, right? Non-stick pan, wrinkle free. You have to really think about the attributes of the product that you buy and take a look at the label. That has to happen first before you go to the source because you can find ways to find products in the United States from Europe. Now, they're not necessarily a particular spot as we are, but you can go to the
right,
store. Maybe there's something from Europe. You can go to other, usually boutiques. Some boutiques have products from Europe and some from other sources. But again, look at the label, look at the brand, and that's the first step. And I think, and I agree with you that we're going in the direction. So it's going to be is a development of sources as well, where people can benefit from.
You used a term earlier that's familiar to some of my listeners. You talked about fast fashion.
Yes.
There's another aspect of the clothing that is manufactured by adults in factories where there are high standards, and that is that in particular, if they're using these high quality materials, they're supposed to last longer, aren't they? And I don't mean to, again, I don't want this to be a commercial necessarily, but you would expect that these clothes are going to wear better, wear longer.
You are so correct. You are so
Right.
correct. You speak the truth. And the reason is because they are organic. There are less
Yeah.
chemicals. Nature is strong. As to why other brands, they manufacture something that doesn't last. Well, probably because the material has a lot of ingredients that are not made to be in that product, right? Those
Right.
chemicals, this product is not made to have all these chemicals, right? So that is why everything you put in your body is going to reject if something is not made for you to actually have in your body. So it's the same, I
But
think, the same theory.
as a closing, I just want to thank you for your passion on this topic. Thank you so much for being passionate about this.
Well, you're more than welcome. It's very natural and organic, speaking of which. So I just really, truly feel that uh, feel that we can do better. We can do better, especially for children. This is their lives, and they're developing now. We must be mindful of that. If not for adults, for the children, to be mindful of what they are putting on their bodies, in their bodies, and on their skin.
That was Samantha Gentry. Samina is offering all Talking About Kids listeners 20% off purchases from her store, Atlantic Children. Just use the code PODCAST20. That's PODCAST20. A link to Atlantic Children and more information about Samina is at talkingaboutkids.com. Once there, you also can find out about upcoming episodes, suggest a topic, learn more about me and my books, or submit your questions for future guests. Our theme song is by The Senators. For more of their music, go to thesenatorsmusic.com. And remember, kids are young goats and young humans, and the difference is that young goats are easier to manage.